Welcome to English Listening Channel.
Hello, everyone. Today, I'd like to tell you about Anna's day, a warm and peaceful day in her life. You'll hear simple English sentences that you can understand easily. I'll speak very slowly and clearly so you can follow every word. Let's enjoy the story together. Let's begin.
Hello, everyone. My name is Anna. I'm a university student. Today, I want to talk about my day. I will tell you about yesterday. Everything I did from morning to night. I will speak slowly and clearly. You can listen and learn how to talk about your daily routine in English. Are you ready? Let's start with my morning. Yesterday morning, I woke up at 6:30. Yes, 6:30 in the morning. I know it's early, but I like to wake up early. First, I turned off my alarm. Then, I stayed in bed for 5 minutes. I just relaxed and thought about my day. I thought about my classes. I thought about my goals for the day. I also did some stretching in bed. I stretched my arms. I stretched my legs. Stretching feels good in the morning. It wakes up your body slowly. After 5 minutes, I got up. I opened the curtains. I looked outside. The sky was still dark, but I could see some light. The sunrise was starting. I went to the bathroom. I washed my face with cold water. Cold water helps me wake up. Then I brushed my teeth for 2 minutes. I use a timer to make sure I brush long enough. After brushing my teeth, I looked in the mirror. I smiled at myself. I said, "Good morning, Anna. Today will be a great day." This makes me feel positive and happy. Next, I went to the kitchen. I drank a big glass of water. Water is very important in the morning. It's good for your body. I also took my vitamins. I take vitamin D and vitamin C every morning. They help me stay healthy. Then I put on my sports clothes. I have special running shoes and comfortable workout clothes. I put on my headphones too. I like to listen to music when I run. I went outside for a morning run. It was 6:50 when I left my apartment. The air was cool and fresh. Not many people were outside yet. It was quiet and peaceful. I ran for 30 minutes. I ran in the park near my house. The park has a nice path for running. There are many trees. I love running there. While I ran, I listened to my favorite music. The music gave me energy. I felt strong and happy. Running in the morning makes me feel alive. After 30 minutes, I finished my run. I was tired, but I felt great. My body felt warm. Exercise is so good for you. I walked for 5 minutes to cool down. Walking after running is important. It helps your body relax slowly. I came home at 7:30. I was sweaty and tired, but I felt happy and proud. I drank some water immediately. Then I did some yoga stretches. I stretched for 10 minutes. I stretched my legs, my back, and my arms. First, I did a forward bend. I bent down and tried to touch my toes. This stretches the back of your legs. Then I did a cat-cow stretch. You get on your hands and knees. You arch your back up, then you arch it down. This stretch is very good for your back. Yoga helps me stay flexible. It also helps me feel calm and relaxed. After stretching, I took a shower. The shower was warm and relaxing. I washed my hair with shampoo. I used my favorite soap. It smells like lavender. Lavender is very relaxing. I stayed in the shower for about 15 minutes. The warm water felt wonderful on my tired muscles. After my shower, I dried my hair with a towel. Then I used a hair dryer. I dried my hair for about 5 minutes. Next, I got dressed. I wore jeans and a comfortable sweater. The sweater was blue. Blue is my favorite color. I also put on warm socks because my feet were cold. Then I went to the kitchen again. It was time for breakfast. I was very hungry after my run. For breakfast, I made oatmeal. I put the oats in a pot with water. I cooked them for about 5 minutes. While the oatmeal cooked, I cut a banana into small pieces. When the oatmeal was ready, I put it in a bowl. I added the banana pieces on top. Then I added a spoonful of honey. I also added some cinnamon. Cinnamon makes oatmeal taste delicious. I also made green tea. Green tea is my favorite morning drink. I boiled water in a kettle. Then I poured the hot water over a green tea bag. I carried my breakfast to the table. I sat down and started to eat. The oatmeal was warm and sweet. It was perfect. While I ate breakfast, I read a book for 20 minutes. I love reading in the morning. It's quiet and peaceful. Yesterday, I read a book about psychology. The book talks about how our minds work. It was very interesting. I read about memory and how we can improve it. I learned that getting enough sleep helps our memory. I also learned that exercise is good for our brains. After reading, I finished my breakfast. I washed the dishes. I washed my bowl, my spoon, and my teacup. I dried them and put them away. Then I checked my schedule for the day. I had 2 classes at university. I packed my bag. I put in my notebook, my laptop, some pens, and my water bottle. I always bring a water bottle. At 8:30, I left my house. I walked to the bus stop. The bus came at 8:40. I got on the bus and went to university. The bus ride takes about 25 minutes. During the ride, I listened to a podcast. I like to listen to English podcasts. It helps me improve my listening skills.
The bus arrived at university at 9 o'clock. I got off the bus and walked to my building. My first class started at 9 o'clock. It was an English literature class. This class is in a big lecture hall. I walked into the classroom. I found a good seat. I like to sit in the middle of the room. I took out my notebook and my pens. I was ready for class. The professor arrived at 9 o'clock exactly. Her name is Professor Williams. Today, we talked about Shakespeare. Shakespeare was a famous English writer. He lived more than 400 years ago. We discussed one of his plays called Romeo and Juliet. It's a famous love story. Professor Williams asked us questions about the play. She asked, "Why do you think Romeo and Juliet fell in love so quickly?" I raised my hand. I said, "Maybe because they were young. Young people sometimes fall in love very quickly." The professor smiled. She said, "That's a good answer, Anna." We also talked about the language in the play. Shakespeare used very beautiful language. The class was 2 hours long. We had a short break in the middle. During the break, I stood up and stretched. I also talked to the student sitting next to me. Her name is Emma. We talked about the homework for next week. After the break, we continued the class. We talked about the themes in the play. Themes are the big ideas in a story. The professor gave us our homework assignment. We need to read another Shakespeare play for next week. The class finished at 11 o'clock. I packed my things into my bag. After class, I met my friend, Sarah. Sarah is also a university student. We've been friends since our first year at university. We walked together to the library. The library is my favorite place on campus. It's quiet and calm. We went to the 3rd floor. The 3rd floor is the quiet floor. Everyone whispers. We found a good table near a window. I like sitting near windows because I can see outside. We sat down and took out our books. Sarah needed to study for a biology quiz. I wanted to review my notes from today's literature class. I opened my notebook. I read through my notes. I highlighted the important parts with a yellow highlighter. Then I opened my laptop. I wanted to do some research about Shakespeare. I found some interesting articles online. I took some notes about what I read. Taking notes helps me remember information better. We studied quietly for 1 hour. The library was very peaceful. After 1 hour, Sarah closed her book. She whispered, "I'm hungry. It's lunchtime." I looked at my watch. It was 12 o'clock already. I closed my laptop. I packed my things into my bag. We left the library together. Sarah and I went to the cafeteria for lunch. The cafeteria is always busy at lunchtime. We walked into the cafeteria. There were many students already there. The cafeteria smells good. They cook fresh food every day. We got in line. The line was long, but it moved quickly. When it was my turn, I ordered a chicken salad. The salad had lettuce, tomatoes, cucumbers, and grilled chicken. It looked fresh and healthy. I also bought an apple for later, and I got a bottle of water. Sarah bought pasta with tomato sauce. She also got a cookie for dessert. We paid at the cashier. I used my student card. Students get a discount. Then we looked for a place to sit. We found an empty table near the back. I started eating my salad. It was crunchy and fresh. The chicken was seasoned well. It tasted great. While we ate, we talked. We talked about our classes. Sarah told me about her biology class. She said the professor is very strict. They have a lot of homework. I told her about my literature class. I told her about Shakespeare and Romeo and Juliet. Then we talked about our plans for the weekend. Sarah wants to go hiking. She loves nature and outdoor activities. I said, "That sounds fun. Maybe I can join you." We also talked about a party next weekend. Our friend Michael is having a birthday party. We laughed a lot during lunch. Sarah is very funny. After 30 minutes, we finished eating. Sarah ate her cookie. I ate my apple. We threw away our trash. Then we left the cafeteria together. Outside the cafeteria, we said goodbye. Sarah had to go to her next class. I didn't have class until 2:30, so I had free time. After lunch, I had free time. I went back to the library, but this time I went to the first floor. You can talk there quietly. I found a comfortable chair. I sat down and took out my book. I read for 30 minutes. The book was really interesting. This chapter was about habits and how to build good habits. The book said that small habits are important. If you do something small every day, it can lead to big changes over time. While I read, I felt relaxed. Reading is like a vacation for my mind. After 30 minutes, I closed my book. I decided to go to the student center. I walked to the student center. The weather was nice, so I enjoyed the walk. The sun was shining. When I arrived, I went to the coffee shop. The coffee shop is called Campus Brew. There was a short line. When it was my turn, I ordered a cappuccino. A cappuccino is my favorite coffee drink. The barista made my cappuccino. She even made a little heart shape in the foam. It was beautiful. I paid for my coffee. Then I found a place to sit. There were some couches near the window. I took a sip of my cappuccino. It was hot and delicious. I sat there and enjoyed my coffee. I also checked my phone. I had some messages from my friends. My friend Lisa sent me a funny meme. I laughed and sent her a reply. My mom also sent me a message. She asked, "How are you?" I replied, "I'm good. I'll call you tonight." After 15 minutes, I finished my coffee. I decided to go outside. I wanted to enjoy the nice weather. I walked outside. There's a nice green area on campus with grass and trees. I sat on a bench under a tree. I just sat there and relaxed. I watched birds flying in the sky. I listened to the sound of leaves moving in the wind. It was peaceful. I felt grateful. After 20 minutes, it was time to go to class. I walked to my next class. My second class was in a different building. I arrived at the building at 2:25. I was a little bit early. I walked into the classroom. I found a good seat near the front. At 2:30, the professor arrived. His name is Professor Garcia. He teaches psychology. This is my favorite subject. Today we talked about memory and learning. Professor Garcia started with a question. He asked, "How many of you have forgotten something important recently?" Everyone laughed. Many students raised their hands. Then he showed us a slideshow presentation. He explained that we have different types of memory. We have short-term memory and long-term memory. He told us that if you review information multiple times, you remember it better. Professor Garcia also talked about sleep. He said that sleep is very important for memory. We also learned about different learning styles. Some people learn best by reading. Some learn best by listening. I was taking notes the whole time. I used different colored pens to organize my notes. Sometimes Professor Garcia asked us questions. Once he asked me a question. I answered correctly. I felt good. The class lasted 1.5 hours. At 4 o'clock, the professor finished. He gave us our homework. We need to read a chapter in our textbook. He also told us about an exam next month. I made a note in my calendar. The class ended at 4 o'clock. I packed up my things. After class, I didn't go home immediately. I had plans to meet with my study group. My study group has 4 people. There's me, David, Maria, and James.
We're all in the same psychology class. We decided to meet in the library. We agreed to work on our group project together. For our psychology class, we have a big group project. We need to create a presentation about cognitive biases. I walked to the library. When I arrived, David and Maria were already there. I sat down and said hello. James arrived a few minutes later. Now we were all together. We could start working. First, we discussed what we needed to do. Our presentation needs to be 20 minutes long. We divided the work among the four of us. Each person chose one cognitive bias to research. I chose confirmation bias. David chose anchoring bias. Maria chose availability heuristic. And James chose hindsight bias. After we chose our topics, we worked individually for a while. I opened my laptop and started researching. I found some good articles online. I took notes while I read. After about 30 minutes, we came back together as a group. We shared what we found. David explained anchoring bias. He gave a great example about shopping prices. Maria shared about availability heuristic. James explained hindsight bias. We all shared our ideas and gave each other feedback. Then we talked about how to organize our presentation. We decided on the order. We also talked about making slides. We decided to use a simple design. Before we finished, we scheduled our next meeting. We decided to meet again in 3 days. At 5 o'clock, we finished. We had worked for 1 hour. It was productive. I packed up my laptop. We all said goodbye to each other. After saying goodbye, I left the library. I walked to the bus stop. I waited for the bus. The bus arrived at 5:15. I got on the bus. The bus was very crowded. I had to stand. The bus ride took about 25 minutes. I arrived near my house at 5:40. When I got home, I unlocked the door. I took off my shoes and my jacket. I felt tired. I walked to my bedroom. I changed my clothes. I put on comfortable clothes. Then I went to the kitchen. I was hungry. I opened the refrigerator. I had some vegetables and rice. I decided to make stir-fried vegetables with rice. First, I washed my hands. Then I started preparing the vegetables. I had a bell pepper, some broccoli, and a carrot. I cut the vegetables carefully. I used a cutting board and a sharp knife. Next, I cooked some rice in my rice cooker. While the rice was cooking, I started cooking the vegetables. I heated a pan on the stove. I added a little bit of olive oil. When the oil was hot, I added the vegetables. I stirred them with a wooden spoon. I added some garlic, soy sauce, salt, and pepper. The vegetables cooked for about 5 minutes. The rice cooker made a beeping sound. The rice was done.
I put rice on a plate. Then I added the vegetables on top. It looked delicious. I carried my dinner to the table. I sat down and started eating. While I ate, I watched a short cooking video on my laptop. The video was about how to make homemade bread. I finished eating my dinner. Everything tasted good. After dinner, I washed the dishes. I also cleaned the kitchen counter. I like to keep my kitchen clean. After cleaning the kitchen, I looked at the time. It was 7:15. I went to the living room. I sat on the sofa for 15 minutes. I just relaxed. At 7:30, I was ready to work. I went to my desk. I had homework. I needed to write an essay for my literature class. The essay was about Shakespeare and Romeo and Juliet. I opened my laptop. I also got out my notebook with my notes from class. First, I needed to plan my essay. I made an outline. My outline had 3 parts: introduction, body, and conclusion. After making my outline, I started writing. I typed on my laptop. Writing the introduction was easy. I wrote about Shakespeare and his plays. Then I started writing the body paragraphs. This was harder. I needed to find good examples from the play. I looked through my notes. I found some good quotes. I typed them into my essay. Writing takes time. I wrote slowly and carefully. After 1 hour, I had written about 2 pages. I was making good progress. I needed a break. At 8:30, I stood up. I stretched. I made some herbal tea. I also checked my phone. I had a message from my mom. I sent her a reply. Then I sat down again and continued writing. I worked for another 30 minutes. I finished the body paragraphs. Now I just needed to write the conclusion. The conclusion was easier. I summarized my main points. I also added my personal opinion. At 9 o'clock, I finished writing. It was 3 pages long, but I wasn't done yet. I needed to read through the essay again. I needed to check for mistakes. I read the essay slowly. I found a few small mistakes. I corrected them. After editing, I was satisfied. My essay was good. I saved the document. At 9:30, I closed my laptop. I still had some free time. I checked social media for 10 minutes. Then I decided to read my book. I read for 30 minutes. Reading helps me relax before sleep. At 10 o'clock, I decided to start getting ready for bed. I went to the living room. I sat on the sofa with my book. I read for 30 minutes. At 10:30, I closed my book
It was time to get ready for bed. I went to the bathroom. I washed my face. Then I brushed my teeth for 2 minutes. I also used dental floss. Dental floss is important for healthy teeth. Then I put on my pajamas. My pajamas are very soft and comfortable. Next, I went to my bedroom. I set my alarm for 6:30. Yes, the same time as today. I also prepared my clothes for tomorrow. I put them on a chair. Then I did something very important. I wrote in my journal. I write in my journal every night. I've been doing this for 2 years now. I wrote about my day. I wrote about my classes. I wrote about my study group. I wrote about my essay. I also wrote about my feelings. I felt productive and happy today. I wrote for about 10 minutes. Then I got into bed. My bed is so comfortable. Before I turned off the light, I thought about 3 good things from my day. I smiled thinking about these things. It was a good day. Finally, I turned off the light. I closed my eyes. I took a deep breath. At 11:15, I fell asleep. I was very tired, but it was a good tired. I had a productive day.
So, that was my day yesterday, from morning to night. I woke up early, I exercised, I went to classes, I studied with friends, I cooked dinner, I did my homework, and I read. I did many things. Now it's your turn. Think about yesterday. What did you do? What time did you wake up? What did you eat? What did you do in the evening? Try to tell someone about your day in English, or write it down. Practice makes perfect. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helped you practice your English. See you next time. Goodbye.
That was Anna's day from morning to night. I hope you enjoyed listening and learned some useful English along the way. You can use these words and phrases to talk about your own day, too. Try to listen and practice a little bit every day. Your English will get better and better. We're making more stories like this, so please subscribe to our channel. If you liked this video, please click the like button. Thank you very much for watching. See you in the next video. Goodbye.